Bienvenidos are welcome, or like I like to say, buenos dias, buenos tardes, or buenas noches, depending on when you are listening to this. So first and foremost, thank you for joining us on Tech Tequila today. We're the podcast where cutting edge technology meets smooth conversation, just like hopefully your favorite adult beverage. I'm your host, Kat Lopez-Shelby, the founder and CEO of Shelby Technology Solutions, aka your techie chica. And I am here and ready to guide you through the latest tech innovations, industry insights, and behind the scenes stories from the digital world. Each week, we'll explore the fascinating intersection of technology and business, all while hopefully enjoying a nice glass of tequila. So sit back, relax, and let's dive into the wonderful world of technology with a twist of lime and a splash of knowledge. So cheers to today's episode.
Welcome, and bienvenidos. Thank you for joining us on the podcast, Tech and Tequila. If you don't know who I am, I'm Kat Lopez-Shelby, and I'm the founder and CEO of Shelby Technology Solutions. But more importantly, you're here for Tech and Tequila, where we learn a lot about tech, and we may have some nice tequila drinks while we're at it. If you're new here, Tech and Tequila is all about everything technology-based for your business. So what that means is we have suppliers on here to talk about how they can help you grow your business. We, have mindset coaches on here talking about how to help you grow your business. We're all about business and basically introducing you to different suppliers and different ways that help you within your business.
I am super excited because we are on season 2, episode 3. That's right. We've made it to season 2 and episode 3. And I almost feel like this is kind of like the highlight reel so far of season 1. Like we're bringing some guests. I was going to say old, but that's not the right way to say it. We're bringing back some of the greatest hits. Let's put it that way. So we've had Celeste LeBray on, and she was on episode 1. And then, of course, I did episode 2 solo. But now we have Dr. Jenna here again to join us. And I am super excited to have you here. So welcome.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to catch up. It felt like nothing had changed, but so much has changed since we last spoke. So I feel like there'll be a lot to go over, tech and otherwise.
Absolutely. And I would be remiss if I did not mention right now, since we are sitting here, my current favorite tequila drink, which of course is Onda, which means, and I don't know how to make this bad boy work, but there we go. Onda, which is a seltzer right here. It means wave. And I have one today. So we're actually recording this a little early. It's at 1:45. Normally we record on Fridays at 4. So it's already well into the weekend. But we're blessed today because we're recording this on a holiday. And, I'm super pumped about that. But I was going to say the other thing that I was going to chat about, because I actually got another couple of, I would say, beverages. They're definitely not alcoholic to bring and talk about today. And that was actually Ken Euphorics, which you can see this one right here. And then I have this one right here, Ken Euphorics. And I thought, because of Dr. Jenna, what your specialties are, maybe you could kind of dive into a little bit, obviously, about, this whole onset of new, we'll say, beverages, new things coming to the market real quickly. Obviously I would be interested to see what these taste like with a little alcohol, but they do come straight out of the can, not alcoholic, for the record.
So yeah, I think it's a really great, it feels like a trend. However, I feel like we're just in this next iteration of evolution and choosing wellness. So it feels like there is an option there's a sober, curious movement to not necessarily say I'm quitting, I'm taking things out, or I have an issue, to just say, hey, I wonder what it would be like if I did kind of step away. So it's nice to have these drinks that not only give you that kind of a feel, that vibe It's funny, the tequila onda is vibes, right? Like waves is mismo. It's the same kind of feeling. And I really like I looked up more about these beverages since we were talking about them. And the fact that we're really kind of putting some low-key vitamins and adaptogenic herbs to help you deal with stress, which I was thinking, being non-localized and moving from place to place and updating your lifestyle each place that you are, it's kind of nice to have that option that doesn't, sometimes you have the alcohol beverage and tequila, your clean tequila is better and better, right? However, to completely get away from the different feelings that you might have around that. Adaptogenic herbs are actually improving your health, and some of these nootropics that help you become more aware and able to respond. I think it's a vibe, but I have to try it, right? Like I'm into it. That's you brought awareness. That's your whole thing, right?
Exactly. And that is, you were talking about the vibes, you were talking about kind of traveling. And I know that you kind of like myself are in this time period of being a little bit more pressureful right now. Because I don't like to use the S word, stress. I like to say the word pressure because we're all diamonds in the making, right? But I wanted to have you on here today because a lot of what we see right now is people talking about being able to live, play, and work from anywhere, wherever their heart desires. And whether that be because they're just at a point in their life where they want to make a change, or due to anything that, let's just say what's going on in society, a lot of people are looking towards that lifestyle. And
Right.
I know you personally are someone who has lived it in the sense of being what I like to call like a global nomadic traveler. And I kind of want to get, your vibe on that and your thoughts about, what does that look like and kind of what do you see going forward?
Yeah. I think first of all, it's such a beautiful way to use our evolution. I think that we've made a choice that not everyone wants to be non-localized. A lot of people don't have that desire at all. And like you said, it can be for different reasons. Sometimes you need to be with a parent. Sometimes you have a child that needs you. Sometimes you have a specific situation where you need some more freedom. Sometimes it's just the global circumstances and finding, I study blue zones and blue zone research for anti-aging. And for me, it's a lot about putting my family and myself in the place where we're going to make those networking connections that are most aligned with what we're doing in the world, to find that cultural adaptability, to learn new things that you don't know if you'll bring with you or not. You get to really experience those things. So for me, I feel like it's a great way that we're using our evolution to be able to be more community based and whatever that means for us, right? Like if it's a need, if it's a want, a desire, if it's a dream, right? If you're just wanting to experience a whole new being. And the global part is, I mean, I cannot say enough good things about the adaptability, about the wellness and the community that we've gained in doing this, the cultural exposure, really continuous learning in all different ways. And what's really cool about that is all this human connection and this well-being is really facilitated by technology being able to be there so that we can make that connection. So it does seem really new, and I see into the future, we will learn to optimize it. I know that as we've had this 5 years of experience, ourselves as a family of 5 and learning and leaning into this, there's been so many changes and developments and advancements, and learning what you can use to help you and what's kind of getting in the way, understanding what technology is going to get us more connected to ourselves. So it's not a get more connection to technology necessarily, but such a great tool. So I feel like into the future, I plan and hope and know that we will continue to utilize these tools to bring ourselves closer together and to gain more knowledge, to continue being curious. And that allows for such a good work-life integration that we feel like we're living our purpose. I feel like that's the ultimate goal, feeling like we're living our purpose in each moment. It makes us well, it makes us contributing, it makes us feel fulfilled. And I really do see that that's the way of the future because it's feeling into itself right now.
I honestly could not agree more. And I wanted to cover this a little bit. Like you yourself, for the most part, let's just say, kind of have this like more digital nomad lifestyle. But for you, it's about traveling internationally and going to different places and experience different cultures. And as I was getting ready for today's episode, I was thinking, but there are people that, and I don't want to call them domestic digital nomads, but really people who want to stay, just within their own country and just really like visit every, mountain, beach, every terrain, obviously if you're in the United States, it's, visiting all the 50 states. And I was thinking about that today, trying to think how to verbalize that so I didn't have to say like domestic digital nomad repeatedly.
Well,
And
I'm
I
trying to think
decided,
of who said it. I think it is a celebrity that said it, but non-localized.
yeah.
So allowing yourself to be non-localized, and remember, oh my goodness, how many biospheres you can experience. There's so much diversity in not only the land that you're seeing, but also there is so much cultural diversity that to experience within the United States or within any country, right? Remembering that 3 blocks over is a new neighborhood type of a feel, and understanding that you can be really allowing yourself to work from anywhere is the key to this. So I don't think the majority of people are going to go country hopping, although it's totally possible. I do think that there'll be a huge influx of exactly what you're saying. People realizing, oh my goodness, I can experience a couple of lifetimes in this lifetime almost.
Mm-hmm. Yes. And I like to think of it as kind of like a Rolling Stone philosophy, because it says,
Ooh.
Papa was a Rolling Stone, wherever he laid his head was his home. And it's kind of like when you think about like, okay, I have this freedom. I was just in a master class recently, and that was like the theme that everybody was talking about was having this freedom. Freedom to what I like to say is live, work, and play from anywhere.
Mm.
Whether that be like, hey, I want to go, let's say I want to do the rural thing for a while. Let's go out and feel how we can, live, play, and work here in a more rural environment to, okay, let's go into the city and, having those different options available. One of the things that I wanted to make sure that we got in today was talking about some of the different types of digital nomads. I know so far we've covered kind of the global idea, and we've covered the domestic, but there are several different ways to think about being more nomadic in general. And I know, so one of the things that it talked about was being a seasonal nomad, somebody who still has, let's say, a home base, and maybe they're blessed and they own their own home, and they've thought, okay, you know what, I can Airbnb this bad boy out and then I can travel. But what would someone who has made the decision to do that, what would that look like for them?
So that's actually how we started to lean into this, and what we thought that we would be doing is just being in a season in Costa Rica and then a season in Texas. And when we're there, I'll tell you that there's so many people who are doing this already. It's very, very common. You choose your favorite season. There's a high season and a low season. I happen to love the rain, so it works out well for me. It's usually low season. But in any country that you enjoy the climate when your climate isn't great. So when we were down there as Texans, we met tons of Canadians because that's a very common thing to kind of chase the season, chase the weather. And what we would, I guess an older term for that was like snowbirds, or right, like we've been doing it forever. It's just a little bit easier to do. And now with, like you're talking about the rental options and those type of co-letting and even trading services that are available now, it's so possible. Some people like the cold, some people like the warm, so we can just switch out.
I know when you started talking about that in seasons, obviously my family is originally from the Valley, like the Brownsville, Harlingen area. And so believe me, we understand the snowbird philosophy very, very well, because, and I don't want to say any specific like demographic, but as people get older and they retire, and let's say they're from up north, you'll see them move into like Florida or come down to Texas during the winter, because they just don't want to have to deal with that type of,
Well, my
weather.
hometown is Kerrville, Texas, which is like the retirement place in Texas. So that's extremely true. But what I think is different now is that people are doing the seasonal thing before they get to the point where they're like in retirement age. So it's everyone is being able to move around, which I think that's a newer type of feel.
Absolutely. And I think that one thing that people, when they start looking into this, like, okay, I really want to like go into this type, we'll call it a lifestyle, but I want to be able to work remote. I want to have this, and I'm going to say wanderlust, but wander around this nomadic lifestyle, is they need to think about, really envisioning what does that look like for them. And and this is why I think it's so important to talk about the different types of
Right.
nomads, and recently, of course, you and I launched a survey, and one of the things that we got back was a majority of the people responded and that they wanted to be a slow mover, that they wanted to stop in this one place and be here for like a month or 2 months or 3 months, like, a whole quarter, and really delve into it. And, I think you can speak to that through your travels a little bit. So,
Honestly, when I got these, like when you told me the survey that was coming in, I could not be freaking happier because I really feel like it's the best way. It allows you to also be very tidied up. You don't want to have a lot of stuff just because it's a lot of care if you're keeping it here and there. And you're allowing yourself to really play into your preferences and your intuition, and trust into that, so that you're allowing yourself, really what we did was book the next biosphere, the next place that we could, volcano instead of beach or rainforest or cloud forest, whatever at that time. And when you get there, you can experience for a month and then see, okay, do I want to extend my stay here? Would I like to stay somewhere closer? Do I want to go somewhere else completely? And it allows you to really feel into what feels best for you and trust your intuition more. That also allows those experiences to be incredibly rich when you're appreciating every day is like, I don't know how long I'm going to be here. I hope I can stay here. Or, oh, I wonder where I'm going next. And that's still not that week where you have to pack your bags, enjoy everything and go, where you don't get to go to the market, where you don't make any friends, where you don't have any connections. Like still, when we go back to any of the places that we've lived, we know the person at the stores, we know all of the main people in the communities. We're able to have those connections. So I think that's just the right amount of time. If you're going to be involved, you can be involved. If you don't want to be involved, you can observe and be, culturally aware to absorb. But that's about the amount of time. I'd say like 4 weeks to 12 weeks, and even a little bit longer. That feels really good to make a homey feel, and you can get into your workflow where you can set everything through and actually still get some things accomplished. When you jump around too much, or when you get so settled in that it becomes stagnant, for me, I prefer this way the best. And I think there's a lot of little tips and tricks along the way for this in particular, because there's a big learning curve with making sure that in each new place you can set up that lifestyle within 1 to 2 days, so that you're not losing all of that time each time that you transfer. But I think with those little tips and tricks, that's the optimal way to travel. That's IMO. Of course, my opinion is that. I was happy to hear a survey was kind of online with that. There's lots of different ways. However, it feels like the most aligned with what we're talking about is non-localized. And even if you were going to be more local in as far as like in your country or whatever, it's still very doable within that time range. It gives you time to plan, to enjoy all of that.
Well, and I think one of the things that it offers, and I think you're really like, okay, so let's say that you're moving from place A to place B, right? There's a couple of things now, and we'd like to maintain the positivity, but sometimes let's say you get somewhere and stuff is just not, it's not working how you need it to work. If you're going to be there for an extended period of time, you have time to figure out, okay, this maybe this place or where I had planned on working out of is not working. So let me find a second, somewhere else I can work in the meantime. Whereas, and I think we have all, I think we have all taken part in having a vacation and be like, I need a vacation from my vacation, because you're like you're in there for a few minutes, then you're gone. And then you're either running all the time, or you're like, personally, I probably would just sleep for like an entire week if I could take a whole, just like a vacation by the beach. Although I always say that in the last,
I was going to say, Kat, I know you. I don't think you would even know if you would imagine yourself doing that for a minute.
I was about to say, I would imagine myself doing that. But the last time I went to Playa del Carmen, I kid you not, I was like working from my balcony every day, like helping people get their fiber and stuff.
This is it. You just hit it, boo, because when you forget that the digital nomad or non-localized, when you're still doing all of your stuff, you're still living your life, and there is still a skill in having a work-life play balance. I will say that when you get the trick down, I feel like it's a lot more rewarding because it's connected. I think it's very connected. However, it is a practice to chill out and relax. It really is. It helps everything else. It is like a conscious practice to put in there. No matter, and especially when you're traveling, sometimes I feel like when you first start, I've heard a lot of people burn out on digital nomadism because they're go, 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 and work, 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 and trying to rest and trying to like do the travel and readjust every time you go. So I do feel there are some little things to know to make sure that it's manageable and you don't burn yourself out, because it can be an exhausting vacation otherwise. So wait, what's the other type? There's this, we have like the seasonal, the slow movers.
And then, so you have the rapid traveler, and this, who they say rapid traveler is someone who moves frequently, like every few weeks. So rapid traveler is not like, okay, we're here for 1 week, then we're another place for another week, and then we're another place for another week. It's like you're moving probably every 2 to 3 weeks versus like,
I can see that being doable.
Mm-hmm.
There's been one time, and I'll tell you, because you just said like what happens if you go somewhere and it doesn't work out. There's only one place that we only stayed at for 7 days to cut our stay short. And I'm not going to try to call out this place in Costa Rica, but if you want to know where not to go, I've got just this one little area that I would not recommend. I'm not negative out loud. But anyway, so when we were there, I fell into a grate on the way into that place. The pool wasn't, there was all kinds of little issues, but I couldn't work from the house. So we found a restaurant that had been on Netflix that they'd redesigned with all of this stuff. And we were able to go there and order avocado fries so that I could sit and use the internet and get my stuff done. So there are ways around wherever you are, like there's a way to plan it. And when you're moving quickly like that, it's just a lot different packing systems and a lot different like organization of what you're going to be able to do within what time. And so we really do a lot of stacked and layering. We had 5 people of my whole family in a FJ with all of our stuff, and the kids all had toy box stuff. And we really had everything. We even carried a pig, a gold pig with wings on it, ceramic with us, huge everywhere. So it doesn't even have to be practical. It just has to be layered. But I think that that's really practical, especially for people who have careers where they might enjoy the networking side of that type of nomadic life, or if they have like a year or 2 years where they want to accomplish seeing specific things. I feel like that makes so much sense for the rapid traveler just off top.
Well, and it's interesting that you say that, because the very last type of digital nomad that they put on the list that we were looking at says the remote year type. And that's somebody who's like, I'm going to put like some roots down. But it also talks about the fact that usually if you're doing a remote year, you're part of some type of like organization, or you have gone in and you've gotten, and I want to say, and I'm probably going to get this wrong. I would have to do a little more research, so don't hold me accountable to this one right here. But I know that there is what is called like a digital nomad visa in some places right now, where you can stay up to 9 months or a year in this one particular location, because how you are working is not dependent on your location. Basically.
Right. And I know that in a lot of different countries, they'll just have different income requirements and you can renew. So it's almost like having, your income proof, as if it's the same kind of thought process as retirement and the retirement visas. As long as you can prove that you're not taking jobs or money from where you are, usually there's a system. We'll have a list that's complete with all of the details as we develop the resources. But I think that like, it's really, when you said at the very beginning, where do you see this going? I think it's really telling that all of these programs are available and that it's such a welcoming atmosphere towards this type of work.
Well, exactly. And I was going to say, one of the things, because in part of this research for the podcast and for everything upcoming was, looking at the fact that 47% of people between the age 30 and 39 say that they really want to be digital nomads, that they don't want to have to stay in one particular place. And 14% say, this is after 40, of course, it says it's more like 14%. But what I thought was very interesting, and since you and I both currently reside in the US or originally from the US, is it said 24% of digital nomads are Americans that are, out here traveling, like going, hey, let's go.
We have a golden passport. We have a golden passport. If you're not going to take advantage of any of your privilege other than that, I mean, that's the one to take advantage of. We really do have that. And then also just the pay scale and the availability of utilizing English in so many places is, again, such a benefit. And I think that sometimes it can feel, I know for me, it feels a little icky that we get to be in all of these beautiful places. And however, everywhere that I've been, I've also known people in that country that are getting to travel to the United States for work, that are getting to do some sort of a trade. So you're seeing this open up more. I really feel like it's the hope is to allow ourselves to integrate as much as possible. I didn't realize it was that high. It's like, that's a quarter of all. That's amazing. And so I'm even more excited to put it together to show us how to be well and kind and integrated and really effective and purposeful in doing this. And I feel like technology is really looking to do whatever we're asking to do from, this is our tool. This is our friend, really. And so understanding how we can help develop in the way that develops these well-being relationships and allows us to have this purposeful flow feels, could we be at a better, I'm feeling really excited about the next 10, 20, 30 years. And I'm glad I made the cutoff for that, the survey, the young people. It's not much longer. My birthday's coming up, but for now.
I know it's too funny because, I always say that while I don't ever want to experience another plague in my lifetime personally, like 2020, but the thing is, I think about it as someone who is nearing the other spectrum. I don't think I can say I'm in my early 40s anymore. I think we're headed the other direction, but we won't talk about it too much. But I think back to when I first started college and it was dial-up internet compared to okay, so even in this situation of, technology was our friend, we had, we had the easy ability to do video calls. We had the easy ability. So whether that's using FaceTime, whether that's using your Facebook Messenger, whatever it was the easy ability. And I think that is something that going into looking at being remote in any form is how do you utilize your technology? Obviously with my background, I always think about how do you stay safe and secure? How do you stay connected? How do you make sure that your customer experience is strong? But one of the things that is integral just to us as human beings, if we look at us in a holistic thing, is how do we maintain those connections with people? How are we building community where we're going? And how are we maintaining our community that we already have? How are we staying connected with family?
Well, first of all, I'm going to say whoever gets this brand deal will get all the shout outs, but I hope it's the one that's actually legit because I would, no, seriously, I think that I can't tell you how many, the last time that the kids and I left, we did seasonal, which you would say, or slow mover because it would fit both. We went to San Jose for 3 months, December through the end of February. And we stayed right in the middle of the city across from the park. And my apps for international communication with new friends, I had no idea how many deep, amazing, rich in character, beautiful people that I had made friends with and am now in constant communication with, that we can support each other, that our kids know each other, that maybe sometimes they had been there for a week, sometimes they lived there for a month. And so that was when I really saw the digital nomad community at this one specific place that I was staying that had turned all into Airbnbs, a beautiful, beautiful location. And it's amazing to see that I felt lonely a lot as a kid. I like to be by myself. I'm very project oriented. I'm a science driven person. And that doesn't always vibe well. However, now we have this availability to find that community, to find whatever community that you're looking for, and you can find them in person and stay in touch with them. Then you can continue that feeling of being authentically connected, and you can have meetups and groups and find where to go when you're in a city. And there's so many cool apps and different apps and applications. Same, Jen. But there's so many ways that they have that we've put together as a community to get together in person. And I think that it's beautiful that we're integrating it this way, that we have not forgotten the other side of things and that we are using it as a tool. I find it beyond exciting that I can look at that and say, oh my gosh, I have 30 plus great friends after 3 months of hanging out, because that doesn't just happen so easily, right? Like, I feel like the tools, when we utilize them with intention, can be really a lifestyle builder. It's been amazing to see on my side what we can do with clients and their wellness, being able to do that. And when you're moving, you have your phone, you have your computer with you, and you can connect that to how you are integrating. It is what's happening, whether we love it or I love it or we don't. But either way, we're moving forward in this way. So I think staying connected is something to be mindful of. And when you're looking at your technology, you're, as long as you're safe and you're connected and you've got your customer experience, I'm watching you, Kat, then it's really your intention behind using it. And I think it can be a really beautiful thing. I've been getting more and more excited as we've been doing this research and looking at what people are really asking to know, at what is available and what can be customized for you. It's beyond.
Exactly. And I think that's the thing is, two of the things with the research, for both the podcast and for things upcoming, is that it's not like, okay, there's exactly this one, it's like there's a path, right? But it doesn't mean everyone has to be on the exact same path.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you can pick, I would say pick your poison, but I don't really like that term. You can pick your way forward, pick how you're going to move forward. Since apparently if there was a drinking game and I said, well, let's just nail that in the coffin, would be my other thing that I say during the podcast.
I mean, our sayings are all very, the two birds with one stone. I really love the saying, and I'm like, oh no, don't hurt the bird. Like, I immediately.
Exactly. But I like that there is so much, number one is that, there's so many different ways to be a digital nomad. So whether it's domestic, whether it's global, somebody who's moving more slowly, someone to this. But the second thing about that is, or I should say another thing, is that there's so many different options as far as for how you're going to work in this environment, because I think a lot of people get stuck like, oh my goodness, here's my experience. What am I going to do? And
Right.
The thing is, that is definitely something to be considered. And both yourself and myself, fall into more of the consultant type of work, or basically.
Right.
But the options out there are so there's just so many.
So variable. It's so variable. And there's so many more resources available now, because like you see, like you're saying, like, we're not the only ones that are seeing this trend in this research. Mm-hmm. So there are so many just what you call normal jobs. We're 9 to 5ing. You're 9 to 5ing. When I was in San Jose, so many people were like just working for a talent agency, or, just like an accountant or whatever. So you have the availability to do anything. And sometimes it'll be hybrid. Like, you'll go in once every quarter, or you'll need to go do a presentation every now and then. And there's a lot of teaching online, right? So there's a lot of availability for that. Course creation is not just for like influencers and having your own website. There's a lot of different platforms that allow you to teach whatever you know. And you think about something that you really know that you like to do and share it. I mean, we understand now that there's so much more knowledge from collecting this. That's what AI is all about, right? We're collecting knowledge. So we understand that collecting your knowledge, there's nothing artificial about it. So it's beautiful that whatever you know can do that, or just a normal job. There are so many of those. And when you're thinking about those year programs, it's not only year programs. You can look to get a on the ground job somewhere that you want to get a job. You can do like kind of travel work, right? So that you could do that, or just tell them that I'm looking for a temporary position for this long. So there's 1,004 different ways. I think that consulting work is what I was doing before in a brick and mortar. So it's you too, right? So we're just doing the exact same things, and some things can transfer over. We're doing them in a whole new way. We've learned a ton.
I know. I always say it's funny because I'm the one person that in 2020 actually got a physical office outside of my home when everybody was like, we're leaving the office. And I was like, no, I cannot work in my home. There are too many people here. It is too people-y. But and I say that, as a joke. I was very blessed for everyone because of so many people leaving the office. I got office space for a very inexpensive price. And number two, I happened to have an office space that I co-leased with another person that was an MSP. So we got to both work out of there. We were both having this issue. For those who don't know, I have a very large family. So me during COVID, you know, there was like 8 people in the house, and it was very difficult when you're like, I need everyone to be quiet so I can get on this call so that I can work and like walk away.
One day we'll tell the story of when during COVID, when all of this happened, where we moved on the mountain, had the slowest internet, but it at least had internet. We're in the middle of the cloud forest, and we talked to the landlord, and there were so many things. We finally got internet that was, you know, good for business within the month or two. But when they came to install it, there was an attack of killer bees on the men that were installing it. And they had to go to the hospital, which was like hours away. There was like this whole, everyone in the valley and the village knew about it. And it was like this big disaster. So I'm thinking like, oh my goodness, technology, Kat, really thinking about the things that happen.
And I think it's fascinating, the intersection. Like I had a client and I forgot the specific place that they moved, but what we ended up having to do was they had to have one internet for the first half of the month and a second internet for the second half of the month, because they were only allotted this much data where they were at. But they were so happy because they were like, yeah, we can be wherever we want, you know? And they're like, yes, we have 2 separate internet connections, but they knew like, okay, on the 17th was the magic day. We switched to internet option number 2 and then just moved back. And they were like,
is like, that's the number one thing is non-localized, digital nomad, whatever you want to call it. You think you are a problem solver and a solution maker before you are, definitely. It's like, there can't be an issue. so there's going to be a solution. So with the tech stuff, it helps to have it all smoothed out for sure. And if something happens, oh my goodness, there's a solution though, like you're saying. It's the adaptability side of things.
Exactly. And I think that's the biggest thing, you know, like you were saying previously, you know, I'm excited about where tech is today, but I'm even more excited about where tech will be in 30 years, because I mean, we've just seen this huge growth in the tech sector. And, you know, obviously I think that personally, I consider this like a renaissance kind of thing where it's like, okay, so we have great tech and we have people that really see that they want to have a better work-life balance, have, you know, this holistic, you know, what is it they always say? Do you live to work or do you work to live? And it's like a lot of people are like, no, I want to live. Like I want this freedom and I want this lifestyle and I want to be able to see things and travel, but I still want to maintain community. And I think we're at this great period in time where, you know, that's, I was going to say that's plethora, and I don't think that really makes sense.
It's a possibility. It really is. It's available for us if we so choose, right? And I think that that's the fun part about it. I don't think everyone wants to do it, so it'll be totally fine. We'll still have lots of the same to keep everything foundational on that side. However, if you even have an inkling that maybe it might be fun, I would say you can always settle down whenever you want. That's totally always an option. And I do think that having this experience earlier allows you a different perspective and allows you to gain skills that, I mean, I'm extremely grateful for. I'm really glad that we have raised the kids this way. And I can't wait to see, like you're saying, how we'll utilize all of this into the future. From the side of regenerative medicine, I'd rather see us utilize optimizing our own lifestyles and playing in our lifestyles rather than trying to fix what happens later. It's like you said, the intention behind it. We can do whatever we want with tech, right? Like it's our friend and our tool. Let's treat it like a good friend that we want to have around for a long time and that we want to help enrich ourselves as we enrich. So it's such a beautiful thing to be able to be a part of. I didn't even know I was going to get this excited, Brew. I'm not even drinking tequila.
I know. You don't even have my, like, I'm trying the Ken Bloom, which tastes very, I would say, like, not fruity, but like fresh, like clean and fresh is what I would say.
Okay. I was looking at that.
The Bloom. And I'm going to totally mess up these names. It has L-theanine and I can't say that. It's like, I can't say them, but they're right here. So look it up, look up Bloom. It's Kim Euphorics. And
Sandra, Damiana, and Planning. Oh, cool. So like a stress management and giving like a little bit of adaptogenic support. So like you have a little bit
Yes.
more, like you're saying that sometimes you feel the S word, STR, yeah. But sometimes sometimes you feel like that, then it allows your allostatic load, or how much tolerance you have, to be increased. So you get like more tolerance of like what you can handle, and allowing yourself to have more of a cushion against the world. That sounds really cool. Oh, that's cool. I really like that. And also like it just helps you think better when you're in that state of mind. So this might be like a good with your work travel type of beverage.
I know. And that's, one thing to think about, because I never really thought of myself as being more of a digital nomad, because I really think, okay, well, I stay in one place. And I know we were talking like a couple
I
of
was
weeks
like,
ago, and you were like,
me.
you're like, boo, what are you talking about? You're in like one city this week. And every time I talk to you, well, I'm going here, and mainly, like, for the record, I stay within Texas. Like, I go Midland, Odessa, I go to Dallas, I go to Houston, but it really is another form. Like, I consider it
A
like
regional nomad.
it's a regional nomad. That's what we'll say. Not domestic, not Rolling Stone, but yeah, a regional nomad within
That's
Texas.
cute. I like that.
I mean, first off, if you want to go to a state in which you can experience like every kind of terrain possible, I think Texas is definitely one to go to. There's a couple others, but I'm a Texan at heart. So, but you get to experience it all, from desert to humidity to ocean and the whole kit and caboodle. So
that's really true. It's a little bit of everything.
It really is, and I think that's the biggest, my biggest takeaway when researching for the podcast, for things coming up, for everything, was, number one is, obviously it takes planning, right? You need to come up with a plan. But I even think prior to planning, it's having the vision of like setting that intention and that visualization. Like, this is what I want. This is how I want to do this. Because you have to start with that vision to get from point A, B, C, D, and make that plan.
Right. And honestly, what I would tell you is say, like, yes, the vision exactly how it is, remembering it won't be exactly how it is, just that you get that feeling. And then remember that first thing that we were talking about earlier is what everyone's looking for. It's the freedom. So if you are imagining yourself and you're imagining, oh, to do this, I have to be busy, and you're imagining yourself busy in those standpoints, sometimes you can blow right past it, do it and not even enjoy it. And so as you're having that intention, in some of the programs that we've got at Visionary Intuitive Productions, you go through values first, right? Values are the most important thing to get really solid on what you actually value, not what maybe some stories that are happening value. It's so easy to get mixed up because they seem so much the same. If you get that value right, and then you say, okay, so since this is what I want to experience, now I can envision it exactly. You envision it, you set your mind there, and then the planning kind of has to happen, because it's always there in your mind. You've got your plan A, B, C, D without even realizing that you've done it. And then the planning, of course, I've learned a lot of things. You've learned a lot of things. We're going to share put it all together. Yeah. But I mean, there is a process for making it easier. I do think that, Kat, what you said is the most important, is understanding what that looks like for you first. Understand what your intention is behind it so that you actually line up with it.
Yeah. Well, and I think, when we talk about planning, it's like I always tell people, like, your tech is just going to tech sometimes. And that's when it comes into place. Like, what is your backup plan? Or, how can you work through this? And as somebody, I want to tell you, your time calculator, or how to say what time zones are in wherever, is going to be one of your best friends. Mm-hmm. And I say this as someone who was on a call with one of my clients at 4 a.m. the other day, because when I scheduled it, I did not realize they asked me a couple of times, like, are you sure you want to meet at 11 a.m.? Because it was in the United Kingdom. And I was like, yeah, that should be fine. Not realizing that was 4 a.m. in Central Texas time. So, I was like, we're not getting on camera this morning because we're just good to be here.
I will tell you, samesies on me. I've got a couple of clients, Australia, UK, that are just, the best thing is my calendar now completely allows only these hours, so that I don't even have to worry. Although my husband's doing work with a company on Korea, and he was up this morning at 4 a.m. with his camera So it's nice to have, there's those little tools that you kind of take for granted that if they're not working well, your whole business day can be shot. You can cause some big issues. So that's a nice little side point.
So I guess that we will finish this whole podcast out talking about what I think is the last thing that is so important. And that is that throughout this whole process is to constantly work on your mindset and how your thought process is and staying in alignment with everything and just the importance of that. Because, I really cannot overestimate how important mindset is within everything, even like whether it's a challenge, whether it's, being in the moment of a great experience and a non-pressureful time, is that your mindset just has so much to do with that.
100%. I mean, I know that the practice of meditation is a big talk right now. However, the depth of just that stillness with yourself and your ability to find the awareness to center your mindset and select your perspective. Understand that what you see is really a factor after what you're looking at, right? So what you're looking at will be what you see. So your perspective is incredibly important. And a lot of times we don't realize these stories, the background noise, the stuff that's just kind of going on, that's always been going on. So taking that 10 to 15 minutes every day to sit and be still with yourself, the research on it is incredible at how much more effective, how many less errors you're making, how much more fulfilled and happy. There's no reason not to do those things. And so I really appreciate you, Kat, for this, because you're correct. I mean, when you're interacting in any manner, whether it's tech, well-being, consulting, teaching, moving, whatever you're doing, when you have awareness and clarity and a peaceful perspective, you are showing up as yourself. You're actually existing and living this life, living it to live it, no matter what you're doing. I feel like it's an incredible benefit, blessing, opportunity for us to even be able to choose that. So I think that everything works a little bit, not even I think. I've seen for sure that everything in your life can go absolutely outside looking to nothing. And when you can see the lesson, and when you can see the beauty, and when you can see the love, and when you can see the peace, when you can sit there and be okay, the things that grow out of it and bloom out of it are more beautiful than you could have ever started to imagine before. So allowing yourself to really get into that space of what's possible. And I hope that's what this is what we'll be able to do, to be able to share, is that really everything that you can imagine is possible. However, it's going to be better than that. So go ahead and imagine it and get ready for something better, even no matter what it looks like. Like you say, the tech is teching. So many things, especially when I was running, bigger pharmacy types of things, so many things with tech could seem like everything was shutting down. It was the worst thing in the world. As long as you could stay calm, there's always a way through it. The world hasn't ended so far. And when it does, I won't be here. So
I love that. It's so funny because I recently, like a couple weeks ago, and I know that you guys kind of experienced this a little bit, but Spectrum was down in San Antonio and Austin. And it was never more of a reminder that I tell all my clients, like, hey, for this like little bitty price here, like very inexpensive, we can get you a backup so that this doesn't happen. And, I think what you're talking about is very poignant because it is about mindset. And one of the things that I like to talk to my clients about is, what is your backup plan? Like, have you run through, if this happens, how are we going to fix it? And I think, several of my clients were like right next door to, let's just say, another very large lek. And they were like, hey, our internet's down. Can we borrow your Wi-Fi for this afternoon so we can keep running? And there's two things to that. Number one, it did tell them like, hey, we got to get these backups, which now they're getting. But number two, it was like that actually kind of, in my mind, is like you built community because you've got this business next door. It's like, yeah, hey, how can I help you out? Or,
cup of sugar type of thing for the new age.
Exactly. And not only that, it's like, okay, so this doesn't work. Let's make a plan and make sure something does work so we can work through this moving forward. Exactly.
I will say that's true. The mindset is allowing you the awareness to be prepared, not just to have the mindset. And you can't do that. When you have the mindset, the actions happen, right? So that you'll have your backup plan, and you'll talk to your techie chica, and you'll talk to your lifestyle consultant, and your hormones won't go out of whack and your tech won't go out of whack because you have a backup plan.
Exactly. You'll be ready to go. Well, I could not think of a better way to end this episode. Obviously, in the notes, for those who haven't taken the quiz or the survey, they will be in the notes when this uploads, and I will obviously add, which I would say whichever, but the best way to get in touch with Dr. Jenna, as well as a way to get in touch with me if you want to have a tech review. So I could not be more grateful for you to have been here today, and thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Have a wonderful day. I appreciate you.
You too. Thank you. All right. Bye.
Thank you so much for tuning in to today's episode of Tech and Tequila. I hope you enjoyed our conversation today. To stay updated about all things tech and more, don't forget to visit us at our website, shelbyts.com. If you loved what you heard, remember to show your support by liking, sharing, and subscribing to our podcast. Your 5-star ratings and reviews mean the world to us and help us to reach more listeners just like you. So muchas gracias again for joining us with Tech and Tequila. Thank you so much. You learned a lot about tech, and maybe you had a nice drink of tequila.